Yeah. Both?
Hey, it's Jordan with the Young Turks, TYT Politics. Behind me is the Ferguson, Missouri Police Department, and you see protesters here basically right in front of Ferguson Police Department, protesting like they've been protesting. Today makes 1 month since the protest. The protest obviously started after the not guilty verdict of former police officer Jason Stockley. Jason Stockley, in 2011, shot and killed unarmed African-American Anthony Lamar Smith. He was found not guilty, even though in audio recordings he was overheard saying, "I'm going to kill this motherfucker, don't you know?" And then, I believe, planted a gun in Anthony Lamar Smith's car. Obviously, being in Ferguson, which is pretty much St. Louis, is symbolic too. This is where Michael Brown was killed, and Ferguson Police Department was supposed to have widespread reforms, but as the protesters here will tell you, that hasn't exactly happened. Let's go check it out. So as you see, they're stopping cars on that side and that side.
Shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down! I said if we don't get it, shut it down! When I say move back, y'all say fight back, move back! Fight back! Move back! Fight back! When I say move back, y'all say fight back, move back! Fight back! 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 When I say move back, y'all say fight back, move back! Fight back! Move back! Fight back! When I say move back, y'all say fight back, move back! Fight back! Move back! Fight back! Say you can't stop the revolution! 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 You won't stop the revolution! You can't stop the revolution! All right, let's wait real quick for this bus. Come on. You may pass.
And we should say they're calling it a liberation party. That's what I just heard, a liberation party. So this is kind of a celebratory protest. I'll let them talk about what they're celebrating. Presumably the fact that they've been doing this 30 days straight. I think they had one off night. But Ty and I were talking about in the car here, like, Jesus Christ, I don't know how they do this. I'm tired. He's tired. I had some stomach issues yesterday, but they keep going. And it's a good crowd out here on a Friday night. You see some older people too, and a lot of younger people.
Justice for the people. Justice for the people. Everywhere we go. Everywhere we go. People want to know. People want to know who we are. Who we are. So we tell them. So we tell them. We are.
And if you see this sign, over here, you got jail Jason Stockley for life, and that's from the Green Party of St. Louis. Obviously, Stockley is what started these latest rounds of protests. The officer who, apparently in America, if you're on tape saying, "I'm going to kill this motherfucker," and then you do it, not enough evidence. So, can I ask you a quick question? Tell me about, obviously, your sign. You think basically Jason Stockley and other officers like him are going to get off into perpetuity unless things change here?
Well, I mean, this, kind of the verdict suggests that, kind of, and that's why we are so upset, because, a lot of people were hoping that finally there is a police officer being held accountable, and then he gets off the hook. So, but, I mean, it was to be expected, though,
And looking at the protests, they've been going on for a month now. Do you think they're starting to get results slowly but surely?
Yes, it's definitely, we hope that it will. That's why we keep on going.
Thank you. So, as you see, they're making, cars are basically having to take another way. Obviously, they're in front of the police department, so, we'll see if the police are patient and don't do anything, or if they'll come out and start being aggressive. Ty was mentioning to me earlier, we don't want to take credit for it, obviously, but the police have definitely scaled back a little bit this week. Hopefully it's because there's been more attention on their aggressive, brutal behavior. I don't know about more national attention, because, again, I did see a New York Times reporter here 2 nights ago. I believe he was here for 2 nights. I don't know if he's still here. But other than that, you really haven't seen the CNNs of the world out here, MSNBC, Washington Post. It's mostly been independent live streamers, Ty and myself the last couple days and last week. But I do believe there's been more scrutiny on the police department, which is a good thing. And the last few protest nights, you have not seen as much of a police force. In the past, if protesters tried to block intersections, block highways, they would be met by police with pepper spray and tear gas and ramming their shields into protesters, knocking them on the ground. Last few nights, that has not been the case. We should also say that St. Louis Mayor Lyda Krewson, who has been under fire here the last couple of weeks for basically doing nothing. Jank just did a segment yesterday on is she for the people or for her donors? I think follow the money. I think she's protecting her donors. Police unions, business downtown, those kinds of things. She just appointed today a chief of public security. Did you see the upside down flag, which we've seen a few nights here? It's obviously the military sign for distress.
Everybody wants to kind of like just relax, but we have a fight. Another bus.
So they are letting the buses through. This is the second bus that they've let through, and right now, what road is this? I'm trying to see what road this is here. What road is this? What road is this? South Florissant? Okay. We're on 220 South Florissant, if anybody here in the area wants to join. And we do see police officers now coming out in force. Not with no militarized gear, so that's a positive. But we do see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and a truck behind them.
This is more than normal in Ferguson.
Yeah.
Say that again?
This is more than normal in Ferguson.
Yeah.
Really? A lot more than normal in Ferguson.
What would how many would normally come out?
I don't know, 5 or 6. Yeah. If we were in St. Louis City, we would have like 400, and we would all be in jail by now. Okay. But
right. So the cars are honking because they have to be, they're being disrupted and they have to turn around.
Turning around here than the rest of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
How many of you seen honk?
About 5 or 6 so far. Yeah. But they just turn around.
And if they don't, let them sit there.
Why are you out here tonight?
Why are you out here? Oh, you're a reporter. I'm sorry.
I think I know why you're out here, but you know what's interesting to me? I see similar faces, but every time I cover one of these, I see more and more new faces coming out in solidarity. Oh, really? Okay.
No, I've been here since the beginning.
Okay. And so far, I think today is 30 days since the
29.
verdict. You feel like things are starting to slowly but surely get a little progress?
A little bit. I really don't want to be the focus. There's other people here that can tell you so much more. I'm bad at this.
That's okay. So they got a sign up there. Let me go read it. What's that?
Fire Boyd, the police officer.
So they're talking about Fire Boyd. And so far the police aren't doing anything. You got Fire Boyd sign. And Boyd is the Ferguson Police?
Ferguson Police.
Right. So they're talking...
Eddie Boyd the Third.
Eddie Boyd III. He's the one that's brutalized...
Psychopath. Look him up. We have a Facebook page out there. Eddie Boyd 3.
He's been accused of hitting children, correct?
Yes.
So they're talking about Ferguson police officer Eddie Boyd here. You got the upside down flag right in front.
Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice!
So far they've been just standing here, staring. And this gentleman is a veteran, and he's telling the police that he thinks they're not exactly doing their jobs the right way.
What? He wants to know more about Eddie Boyd. Eddie Boyd is the worst police officer on the Ferguson Police Department. He has several lawsuits that have already been settled because of him. He's the one that used to pistol whip kids in the city, and he got fired. So now he's with Ferguson, and he has a bunch of lawsuits, and they refuse to fire him because he's a black officer.
So basically, they don't want to fire him because he's black, you think?
They don't want to fire him because he's a black officer, but he's the worst officer, and he's costing them several lawsuits.
You know, it's interesting you said that because the mayor the other night acted like a big part of the solution, let's just hire more black officers.
That black officers can be bad officers too. It's not a matter of black and white, it's a matter of bad officers, and he's the worst officer on the Ferguson Police Department, and they refuse to fire him.
And it seems like for people who maybe have tuned out since the Ferguson protest, the Ferguson PD hasn't exactly reformed itself.
The Ferguson Police Department is just as bad as they were before Mike Brown got killed. They have a consent decree that they're not following. The voters voted this year for all the officers to have body cameras and have them on at all times unless they're going to the restroom, and they still aren't wearing them.
And the Ferguson Commission hasn't exactly been implemented then?
No. They are not following the consent decree.
Tell me about the consent decree.
The consent decree was, we forced them to sign that with the Department. Actually, the Department of Justice had to sue them to sign it on February the 10th of 2015, and they're still not following the consent decree.
Thank you. So you got a Blue Lives Matter sign, a party time sign. So apparently, for the protesters, tonight's part protest, part celebration. So, and you hear them chanting, "We have nothing to lose but our freedom, nothing to lose but our chains." So, Ty, Dave, last night was in front of the Ritz-Carlton where Governor Krewson was having a fundraiser, and tonight's right in the putting the thumb in the face of the Ferguson PD. Seems like the protesters are getting more and more emboldened, but it also seems like the police have scaled back a little bit too.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I wouldn't say that they've become more emboldened. I think they've been doing this. A lot of times when they do something like this, they're met with aggression. I think the police have scaled back for whatever reasons. Like yesterday, like I was saying yesterday when we were in front of the Ritz-Carlton, they kind of had a parameter just like they have here, but they didn't mess with anyone, and they let them be. And they were actually blocking some of the streets off to make sure that that cars wouldn't go through where the protests were. So I don't know if that's something that came from the arrest that had the 200 arrests that happened last week, but they've been very tame and standoffish, not aggressive like they've been a lot. And I think also, like the lady said, like it doesn't even matter if you're black, white, or Chinese. If you're trained in a system that's corrupt, you're going to be corrupt. Black police is as corrupt as white police is as corrupt as Asian police. It doesn't even matter. The system is corrupt. The system is racist. So it's going to train you to be racist. That's the training. The training is to profile. The training is to look at a person and say, oh, he can possibly be a threat because of how he looks, because how baggy his pants is, or how low his pants are hanging, or how dark his skin is.
So they're continuing to chant.
Divided we fall. Divided we fall. United we stand. Divided we fall. United we stand. Divided we fall. What time is it's party time. What time is it's party time. What time is it's party time. United we stand. Divided we fall. 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 They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game.
And we should say, huh?
They have a little kid out here. I think it's great.
Yeah. So we should say that the protesters had a small victory today. If you saw the town hall that they had 3 nights ago, one of the demands that they've been making is before the mayor hires a permanent police chief, they wanted to hire a permanent head of public safety. There was no head of public safety in place. So Mayor Krewson earlier today appointed a longtime judge, Jimmy Edwards, to lead the Public Safety Department. Public Safety Department is in charge, among many things, of the police and making sure. Hold on.
It ain't no joke. Ferguson Police Department remaining in the street is a failure to yield
for motor vehicles under Ferguson Ordinance 44-342. Please, ladies and gentlemen, you must leave the roadway immediately and remain on the sidewalk or be subject to arrest. We understand your plight.
So it looks, he just said, we understand your plight. We understand your plight. And seems like that would be a precursor to arresting people. I don't know. What do you think?
I think absolutely. So we can stay.
So we do have a legal observer here with the green hat. So that's a good thing. As we saw when Ty and I were arrested, they have been arresting legal observers. I even saw them barrel into a legal observer with their shield. So that's totally illegal. This was St. Louis City Police about a week and a half ago when they arrested legal observers, myself, Ty, 6 other journalists. So we're going to see what happens here. Ty and I are going to stand on the sidewalk because we want to be able to show you this. And we can't show you this if we're, again, going to be arrested for doing our job. But if things get hairy, we'll jump in there. Basically, when the police were reading off the law or the statute, a couple of the protesters had some choice words for them, a couple of F-bombs, and said, "Stop killing us." How about stop killing us? So definitely press the share button. Let's get this out to more people, because if the police are going to step over the line, if they're going to get aggressive, we want to have it in front of as many eyeballs as possible. I'm aware it's Friday night. There's the Yankee game is on, and whatever entertainment is on, whatever crazy things Trump tweeted are going on, and I'm sure people are at home having a beer or a doobie. But it's important to get the eyeballs on here. Even with that threat that they can't be in the road, I haven't seen anybody leave yet. So, and you actually see a police officer here. It seems like he's videotaping the protesters. So it seems like they're doing their own recording, but they are not leaving at the moment. And so on the street here, you actually have kind of like chalk, justice for Isaiah Hammett, who was killed. Expect us, which is one of their main rallying cries. Expect us. I actually think that's their Facebook page. Expect us, St. Louis. Justice for the people. Blue Lives Murder. Killer cops kill every day.
Let's make sure we're not in the street, just in case.
Oh, we're not in the street.
Yeah, I know.
We are on the sidewalk doing our job. And even if we're in the street, it's a little murky, them arresting journalists, because last time I checked, protests in Baltimore, in Ferguson, happened in the street. They didn't start arresting CNN people. They didn't start arresting New York Times people. They certainly weren't arresting Washington Post and some of the big boys. Actually, no, they did arrest somebody from the Washington Post, I believe. I don't know if it was Baltimore or Ferguson. But the attention needs to be not just on like arresting journalists, but how are they going to respond to the protesters? Nobody is armed that I could see. They are blocking traffic. Many protests in America include disrupting traffic, disrupting business, but that's protests. They are not throwing things at the police. They are not armed. Really, the only thing they have at the moment is their voices and signs. So we shall see if the police continue to do anything. What they could have been doing is reciting the law and then maybe give them like 10, 15 minutes before starting to arrest people. And to be clear, a lot of these protesters come out here willing to be arrested. I've talked to many of them. I mean, they are fighting for their lives. It's not like a publicity stunt. It's not for the cameras. They're fighting for their lives. So to them, jail is not, it's not pleasant, but it's not going to stop them from coming out here. As they say in repeated interviews, their point is you're going to stop killing black people. It's a very simple point. It's a very powerful point. I'm a white guy, so I'm not going to pretend to understand their plight, but talking to as many of them as I did in our jail cell, it's kind of horrifying hearing the day-to-day treatment for black people in St. Louis, in Ferguson, elsewhere. They're treated like not even second-class citizens, just not human. They are not treated like humans, and this goes back to history. This was a Union state, but it was a Confederate. It was basically the only state that was part of the Confederacy, but technically was a Union state. They just took down Confederate monuments, I believe, last year. Here.
The Ferguson Police Department understands your First Amendment rights of freedom of speech. But in this juncture, remaining in the street and failing to yield to motor vehicles is a violation of Ferguson Ordinance 44. Ladies and gentlemen, please vacate the roadway. I repeat, please vacate the roadway. You're in violation of Ferguson Ordinance 44-342. This is your second and final warning.
So he just said this is your second and final warning. So reason would stand they will start arresting people who won't leave the streets. But you see people on the front lines there with the upside-down flag. We see people in the middle of the road. We see people across the street in the parking lot. We see one legal observer here. When you see a green... Oh, no, there's more than one. Definitely... What's that?
They have a projector saying to fire Eddie Boyd. Can you see it on the wall?
Yeah. So they have a projector across the street to fire Eddie Ward, who, as that young... Boyd, as that young lady said, is the worst police officer in all of Ferguson Police Department, which is saying a lot, because a lot of them are pretty bad, I would say. And they're continuing to chant, saying, I believe that we will win. And Ty and I kind of want to test it out, because we...
Make sure you get video to rest, because they got a habit of abusing people.
Yeah. So what she just said was make sure you get video of the arrest, because they have a habit of brutalizing people. So that's why we are here on the sidewalk, because we want to be able to get those pictures. Last time, we have no idea what happened after we were arrested, because they started arresting legal observers and journalists first, obviously in an attempt to make sure we couldn't show you what they were doing. So
right now they're getting those ties ready. As you see, he's handing them out, and so they're about.
Right now they're getting the kind of like zip tie handcuffs instead of the regular handcuffs to arrest people. And you see cars being stopped on this side, cars being stopped on this side. Stand on the sidewalk so they can't give us any bullshit. So they've given 2 warnings now. Again, the police are citing Ferguson Ordinance, I believe, 44, they said. Telling people that they understand their First Amendment right. They understand their First Amendment right, but
I want to keep the camera on them, so just talk over here.
They understand their First Amendment right, but they're saying you have to leave, and they're basically saying, and you guys are part of the corruption here. You guys are part of the racist system. As they're chanting, the whole system is guilty as hell. So right now it's a bit of a standoff. We'll see what happens. But one woman I was talking to before, I was asking kind of tongue-in-cheek, so I guess the Ferguson Commission hasn't reformed the Ferguson Police Department? It actually came out last week that a large part of the Ferguson Commission report has been redacted to basically protect police officers that the commission showed were out of control or brutalizing protesters or that kind of thing. They redacted a lot of them. And you have cars honking. But as of right now, we still see the same amount of police that first came out. 1, 2.
Sergeant back again.
What's that?
Here comes the sergeant back.
Yeah. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 that I could see. And looks like the main officer that came out and has got on the microphone twice now to tell protesters to leave. It looks to me like they're readying to start arresting people. Again, this is the acquittal of Jason Stockley happened on September 15th, so that's exactly 4 weeks ago today. So these protesters have not stopped, and as of right now, they don't plan on leaving that highway. And when I asked the protesters, how long do you plan on continuing with this, they say until they stop killing us. So I don't think they plan on stopping, no matter how many times they get arrested, no matter how many times the police brutalize them or do things like that. But as of right now, it's just a standoff. There doesn't seem to be any immediate action. But we're trying to see. Here we go. Here we go. So here comes the officer one more time.
This is the Ferguson Police Department. Remaining in the street is a failure to yield. The first report is 44-342. Ladies and gentlemen, please, you can egress the roadway via the east and the west. There's a parking lot you can go to, and there's a sidewalk you can go to. So please, ladies and gentlemen, leave the roadway. This is your final warning. Ladies and gentlemen, please leave the roadway and get on the sidewalk. You are more than welcome to peacefully protest. Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets!
So what I just did was I took a picture of Ty and myself on the sidewalk so that if they try to do some shenanigans with us, they could delete it from my phone, but I just took a picture of Ty on the sidewalk as well as myself. All right. And one of the protesters on the megaphone is still chanting at them, "Stop killing us, stop killing us." Stick with me, guys. I'm just tweeting out these pictures.
Chief's giving a command on his radio.
Oh, yeah?
What happened?
You said he's getting a command?
He's right there in this truck.
So it looks like the chief is getting some type of command, either to arrest people or, I guess, walk back in.
You guys fucked up when you came out here all hardcore. You just should have stayed in like last Friday, and everybody wouldn't have been aggressive. You guys have watched all the tapes. You watched all the tapes. You know exactly what happens every time.
So I just tweeted out
my chief,
visual evidence that we're here on the sidewalk. So if they want to do any funny stuff with journalists, I don't believe there's an ordinance about being on the sidewalk in front of the St. Louis, the Ferguson Police Department, but we'll see. So they're still chanting in the middle of the road here. And protesters across the street are saying, y'all got your tasers ready? We got ours ready. And the police here, they're getting some type of instruction on their walkie-talkies. So for all we know, that could be start arresting people or what's that?
Probably the riot police. They're probably waiting. That's why they're standing down.
For the riot police to come?
Probably. Because they can't. There's not enough police for them.
And do us a favor, if you're watching on Facebook, retweet my tweet just now so we could get the visual evidence out that we're on the sidewalk. We're not doing this to protect ourselves. We're doing this to point out if they start trying to arrest journalists again, if they start trying to basically get rid of the cameras, violate the Constitution, we are putting evidence out there that we are following the laws. We are the press.
Here they come.
Okay. So we see police sirens coming this way. Excuse me. I guess this is the riot police Ty was talking about.
Normally, riot police come in vans and in big SUVs. It looked like a reinforcement of the police department.
And what's interesting is you never actually hear, you always hear the police say, we understand your First Amendment right. We understand your right to protest. We want to give you that. You never actually have a police officer come up to the protesters and say, hey, what can we do better? Hey, let's talk. What you never actually hear the dialogue. You hear, oh, we understand you're allowed to, we want to let you do this, but here's why we're going to arrest you. You haven't heard one police officer come up and try to open dialogue with the protesters. Why are they out here for 30 days? Why are they saying these things about us? It seems like they're just disinterested in actually getting to the root of the problem, because there's a built-in arrogance. We are the law, and screw you people out here for daring to block traffic or protest us.
Yep, that's exactly what's going on. Yeah. Those are vans too. Yeah. This is the
what?
So those are vans too. This is it's going down.
As Ty said, it's going down. We are on the sidewalk once again. We want to be able to show you exactly what they're going to do. Last time they were able to shut us down illegally, mind you. But hopefully that's not going to happen again tonight, as we are not in the street. And by the way, even if we were in the street, it's not illegal. The Constitution allows journalists to cover protests. Lots of protests are not on the sidewalk. Actually, most protests are not on a sidewalk. They are in the middle of the road. And here is the chief again, saying you must leave the roadway. That's the assistant chief, thanks. And here comes the police. And here comes them arresting people. Here comes them arresting people again. Quite aggressively. As you see, and they're arresting another person in the middle of the street. I see one person, two people, three people. And as you see, they're being pretty rough with her. Pretty rough. And he just, this officer kind of just tried to lunge at one of the officers. You could tell he's not happy. Yeah, I counted 3 arrests as well. You see a few police trucks here. And we just saw 3 arrests. This deputy chief here, not the chief, but he's coming out here too. Doesn't look too pleased. And now he's telling them to get off the side of the road, even though he just said move to the side of the road. Now he's instructing them to get them off the side of the road. So, in one breath, get off the street. In another breath, we're going to get them off the sidewalk now. So much for your First Amendment right to protest. And you still have people on the front line here. You have people on the front line here still protesting.
And the problem is, you can't go get the people that's actually doing stuff. Y'all going after people that care about their rights. Y'all act like we out here asking for something we shouldn't have. That's disgusting. You put your knee in somebody's back.
A female, bunch of them.
You should be ashamed of yourselves. Y'all absolutely ridiculous.
Cover your ears for a minute, Pastor.
Absolutely.
Cover your ears just
Absolutely. But I tell you what, I bet you will pay for it, and you ain't got to pay by the hands of us. Yeah, you ain't got to pay at the hands of us. I tell you what, it's got a way of coming back around. It's sad. It's sad.
You saw them knee that young woman in the back?
It's unbelievable. Like, she didn't resist anything. She didn't resist. Why take two people and then you got to put your knee in her back? She didn't do anything. And then to drag her like that, and then you got her in handcuffs and you yanking her around, you could have broke her arm. It's uncalled for. She out here protesting rights of people. I just don't understand. And the funny thing is, all you all have to do is do right. We could go home. It's unbelievable. Like, we not out here because we not doing right. We're out here because they not doing right. And then you want to turn up. But the funny thing is, God got away. God got away. So I tell you what, remember that. God got away.
You think they get off at brutalizing people? You think
they
enjoy
get off
it?
at brutalizing people. They do. They think it's funny. They think it's cute. But I tell you what, they got kids. So, you know what? One of these days, they gonna pay. They kids gonna pay. They grandkids gonna pay, because you can't. And I'm not even saying at the hands of us. I'm just saying that life has a way. You can't hurt people. You can't treat people bad like that and say you serving people and then expect to have great things. They gonna pay for that one day. Somewhere in their bloodline, hopefully it's while they still alive and they can see it. Hopefully one of your comrades treat y'all like y'all treat us, treat your kids like y'all treat us.
And are they ever coming up to you guys and trying to have dialogue?
No, they don't. No, but they also know that we don't want to have dialogue with them yet, because they don't know how to come to us, because they come to us on this level of you here and we here, with their chest all poked out and all of this, talk to us like we a citizen, just like, or not even, I won't even say citizen, because we got undocumented folks we got to take care of too. Talk to us like we are all human. They know better than us. And I keep saying it. That's man-given authority. It means nothing when you take that doggone shirt and shield off.
And this woman, Cori Bush, is running for Congress here. So if you like her fire, find out more. Cori Bush, 1st District. You've been out here for a month now.
Yes.
You seeing progress?
I'm seeing progress in people are joining with us that we would have never thought would join with us. People are coming up saying, you know what, this is wrong what they're doing. They're seeing that how they're brutalizing people, how they're picking up anybody, people that aren't even a part of the protest, and people that are a part of the protest seeing that all we want is justice. They're seeing it this time. So yeah, I think we are making progress. And our group is growing. It's growing. So in support in so many different ways.
And I see this has been going on now 30 days, but the history of this state, which was a Union state but still part of the Confederacy,
yes.
was the only one that was technically a Confederate state, part of the Union.
Yes.
That's not going to go away
no.
in a month.
That divide it stays. It has lingered. This city especially is so divided. This state is so divided in every way. But what we're seeing now is people that were divided before are coming together. So this is something like even the fact that the clergy are with us, and we have and generations have come together. We even have other groups that used to support them that are now supporting us. So this has been amazing, and I'm not backing down. We're not backing down. We're going to get what we're asking for. And what we're asking for is you will stop killing us. We're not asking, we're telling you. And you can write that down. Yeah, I said it, and you know my name.
raggedy selves.
I think it's clear what she's talking about. So we got a few people over here still, but Ty and I are going to cross now the street. Hopefully they don't start arresting me for jaywalking here. There's still a very healthy number of people out here. By my count, 3 people got arrested. Four? Four? Okay, 4 got arrested. I did see them pretty rough with one young lady. She was down. You could see she was saying something to the effect of, "You're hurting me." I did see a police officer kind of knee her in the back with his knee. So obviously no need for that. You had 2 officers on this young woman. So this is kind of like standard operating procedure. They don't just want to get you off the street and arrest you. They want to hurt people. They want to intimidate. They want to threaten people. And they want to be violent enough that you're going to stop doing it. But I think it's having the counter effect, actually. I think every time they arrest somebody, I still see those people keep coming out. So let's hear what they're saying.
Divided we fall. United we stand. Divided we fall. Okay, so what just happened was everybody to the side. We need one voice, one group. Whatever you're doing, we can do it in just a minute.
Are we going to get locked up?
I think whoever's going to get locked up, that's who stayed in the street, pretty much. So, we just had at least 4 people arrested because we said take one, take all, and 90 or 95% of everybody left. So, if anybody's been out during an arrest, we do not leave without our people. That's just something we do not do. They may be going to St. Anne. I'm going to go over there to try to get some answers. But I just wanted to let you guys know that we need to stay focused. We need to watch our surroundings because I was trying to let people know exactly what was going on, and everybody was so into just conversation. And we still have to remember we're at the Ferguson Police Department. And this is where it started in 2014 that even woke the world up, Ferguson, right here at this PD. So this is the last place anybody should be getting out the street at. If we say take one, take all, they grab one, everybody hold on to each other. I don't care and pull back. Or say get out the street, but not just let them openly just get arrested and then want to talk about it afterwards. That's not how we do it. So if we can stay focused, and when we're chanting, my voice is out. I've been chanting for 29 days, 28 days, whichever one it is. So if I can continue to do it, I know every last person can make their voice effective because there's people out here that are dead, that cannot speak for themselves, and that's why we come out here. We come out here to fight, and we come out here to speak up. Yes, we can have conversations, but when it's more conversation than us getting a message to them, and they're talking over us and they have a bullhorn, that's a problem. So we need to stay focused. We need to be chanting, and I'm going to go over there and see what's going on and see where we need to go see where our people are at.
So far we have 3 names, and the 3 names were Chris, Keith, and Sarah. Does anyone know a 4th person?
Yvonne. I don't know her last name.
Elaine got arrested too.
Elaine?
Yvonne went to jail, Cheyenne.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if does anybody know Yvonne?
So right now they're trying to get a listing of the 4 people who were arrested tonight.
Sarah Townsend and Chris.
Craig.
Okay, so there's an Yvonne. If you know anybody else, come to the green hat.
And trying to read some comments here. Obviously, a lot of trolls. But Marcy Higgins says there's a difference in criminals and black people getting killed. If you're white, you have no idea. And I think that's a pretty damn on-point comment, Marcy.
We have some that are really ready to go by that slogan and our words, take touch one, touch all. That means that you are willing and you are ready if it happens to be arrested. If so, We will take the streets. But if you're not prepared to be arrested tonight, do not go out there.
I didn't get his name.
Basically, they're saying that tonight, when several people got arrested, a lot of the protesters had moved to the sidewalk, and I guess their system, or whatever you want to call it, is if one goes, we all go. So not to leave anybody in the middle of the street or wherever to be arrested, meaning in basic, don't cower it out, I guess you could say. Is that how you take it?
Yeah. I'll talk about it in a minute.
Ty's got some thoughts. Yeah, I mean, definitely some of these people, one of the guys I saw got arrested the night Ty and I did. So some of these people, it's their second arrest, their third arrest, their fourth arrest, however many.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No racist! Police! No coward! Police! No justice!
And again,
no peace!
Again, I just want to make the point. I got to make it every time I do this. This has been going on now exactly 4 weeks. Exactly 4 weeks they've had protests. I think one night they didn't. I have not. Ty and I, this is probably like our 7th or 8th one we're covering. I have not seen a CNN camera. I haven't seen an MSNBC camera. I haven't seen the Washington Post. Did see the New York Times 2 nights ago, but you're not seeing large national media attention for an ongoing protest against police brutality. And you have to start asking yourself, why is that? Yeah, there are hurricanes. Yes, there was a horrendous mass shooting that, frankly, is already out of the news cycle and should still be in the news, because by taking it out of the news, you're desensitizing. That's why everybody is so desensitized to these mass shootings over and over again, because they cover it for a few days and then it's back to whatever Trump tweeted. But all of these outlets that I just listed, CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, the New York Times, got way more resources than Ty and I. Ty and I are running on fumes. We're working long days, and we haven't taken a day off in quite some time. And it's not because we're so great, it's because we care. But we don't have the resources they have. They should have people on the ground here indefinitely. And if they have to, one person's here for a week, you get replaced by another person. They got the resources, so it's a choice not to show this. And then you have to ask, why don't they want to show police brutality? Is it because they're okay with it? Is it because they yield to the powerful? They yield to the shield? They yield to, basically, police, there's some bad apples, but by and large, they're fine? Is it because most of the people at these networks that I'm talking about are so disconnected from what a poor black person or any black person has gone through? I mean, it's not just white anchors. I mentioned the word Don Lemon, Ty will go nuts. There are wealthy African-American anchors who are not exactly endearing themselves to the Black Lives Matter movement. Something is wrong when you see over and over and over and over and over again black people murdered by police, and in this case, a black person murdered by police, and the police officer saying on tape he was going to do it. He said, "I'm going to kill this motherfucker, don't you know?" And then he killed him. And it's really gotten very little coverage. I'm not doing this to get on my high horse, because I like ranting against media, but how is that not big news in America? How is it not big news when thousands of people have been protesting now for a month? Mass arrests, mass violence, and you're not seeing it in the news. And in that case, that is a corporate blackout. That is a corporate blackout because they don't want you to see it. But make no mistake about it, even if you're white watching this, the police are attacking the poor. So yes, black people are getting disproportionately murdered. There's no mistaking that. That is the number one issue. But they don't do this in wealthy neighborhoods. Reverend Darrell Gray, who I've spoken with a few times, he's a reverend in the community here, he said poverty is the root of the brutality. And they're not doing this in St. Charles or wealthier suburbs of Missouri or Michigan or Maryland. They're doing it in cities that are heavily, extremely poor, predominantly African American, Latino, all that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll tell you about him. I heard one of the guys that was getting arrested. He looked around and he was just like, "Y'all saying it's our streets, where y'all at?" Like, I heard him say that as he was standing in front of a car, and then he got arrested. I don't know. It was kind of took me by surprise a little bit. The reaction, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really our role to like judge the protest, whether they're good, whether they're bad, talk about their strategy. We're just here to show you what's going on. I definitely will give you my opinion on a lot of the things. But this is definitely the first time I've covered anything that when there were arrests, you kind of saw a divide. You saw 3 or 4, I think 4 people get arrested, and the rest moved to the sidewalk. Who knows? Maybe it was miscommunication, or maybe it was just human instinct. A lot of people didn't want to go to jail tonight, you know? I'm not judging it. I'm not, it's not for me to mention. But they did say after, they made a point of saying, our philosophy, our DNA is you take one, you're taking all of us. So who knows? Like, I'm definitely not in the middle of like protest leadership, their discussions or their strategy. I stay far out of that. So, but I'm sure, judging by the fact that that was the first thing we heard tonight, they will be assessing what happened here tonight, because just also for people's safety, I think they want more people, everybody, to stay on the street together rather than, leaving 3 or 4 people out there as sitting ducks, so to speak. So they are, right now, seems that they're organizing people to go over to the jail that they think they're at. I think I heard St. Anne's is what I heard. But the police are still over there. There's still people in front of the police department. At the moment, it seems like the protesters are the leaders are kind of talking amongst themselves about what to do next. But again, it's, I'm running out of adjectives to describe this. I was in Standing Rock for quite some time, which was a completely different dynamic, but same pattern. Not enough cameras, not enough eyeballs. And what you're seeing here, there's a lot of talk like, let's not normalize Donald Trump's racism. And I've expressed that I agree with that. But I think when you don't really put a spotlight on these kind of activities, even a police officer like ramming his knee into a young unarmed protester, that normalizes police brutality. Remember, we pay these people's paychecks. They are, like politicians, supposed to be public servants. So if there's not enough cameras out here, or they are allowed to do this in perpetuity, and it's just normalized, the police are going to get violent, or as the president said, they shouldn't be so nice, a.k.a. dog whistling, rough up those poor black people, Trump was saying. And by the way, let's keep it real, this was all happening before Trump too. I think that's a big problem with this resist movement. They act like, everything was dandy on January 19th. No, it wasn't. Trust me, it wasn't. What was going on in Standing Rock was before Trump. What was going on in Ferguson was before Trump. There's been police brutality before Obama. Basically, I think in society and in the media, I think there's a deference to the police that we need to re-examine. I am not blanketing all police. My father has a really good friend of his who's a police officer on Long Island. I know him. Wouldn't hurt a fly unless he was really under threat. I've spoken with him about Black Lives Matter and things like that. So there are some good police officers, but the bottom line is we have the data, we have the headlines over and over and over again. Basically in this country, police are allowed to shoot first, answer questions later, and for the most part, they don't even have to answer those questions. And in that country, in that dynamic, you're living, that's terrorism. I mean, that is terrorism. People might think that's too harsh a word, but what would you call that? Terrorists, it's not, I think a lot of people wrongly say terrorism has to have a political goal. That's not true. That's not true. Terrorism could have a political goal, or it could just be, we want to kill as many people as possible, and we want to put the fear of God in people. And make no mistake, I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it in Ferguson, I've seen it in Flint, I've seen it in Standing Rock. Not all, but there are quite a large portion of police that, frankly, they can't really hide it. They get off on the aggression. They get off on being unnecessarily aggressive and brutal with the people that they are technically supposed to protect. And that's a problem. And with that, that's more than retraining. That's more than a conversation. You know, you always hear in the media, we need to have a conversation. Well, I don't think we need to have a conversation. I think we need immediate reform. The conversations are not going to stop another black person from getting killed senselessly in America tonight, which is probably happening as I speak. And they're not going to get the headlines that Michael Brown got, or Anthony Lamar Smith got, or Trayvon Martin, or Jordan Davis, or fill in more. We could have conversation, but the bottom line is when fellow citizens are under threat, under attack, I would call that a crisis. And it's not treated that way in society. So that's my monologue of the evening. Right now we have, looks like, just kind of some of the protesters still hanging in the parking lot.
National media out here now. I mean, some local media.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, this happens quite a bit. Let me give you a little secret. I used to work in local media in Tampa, Florida. So the local media, in some cases, are understaffed, definitely less resources than national press like CNN, but they have scanners at the assignment desk. So you have scanners up at the assignment desk, and the assignment desk is kind of like the brain of the newsroom. You have police scanners, and the assignment desk will be like, oh, you, reporter, get out there and give them the address once they hear stuff, because they don't want to actually proactively send reporters out to cover like a protest.
Most of the time they don't send reporters, they just send a cameraman.
Right. They only want to do it if there's a chance. They say if it bleeds, it leads, which is a really sick phrase, and that's part of why I got out of local news. They only want to cover it if there's a chance of brutalization, mass arrest, or violence. And that's a sad reflection, too, because to me, some of the most important things I've covered here or in Standing Rock weren't arrests, but some of the day-to-day more powerful moments in Standing Rock, indigenous ceremonies they had for water protectors that had who had chained themselves to construction machines. Here, interviewing some of the protest leaders in front of a gymnasium, one of them said to me, "This is the new Selma." So a lot of times you get really powerful things and you actually are able to show your audience what's really going on when it's not a wild, wild west scene. But unfortunately, the media, in many cases, including Standing Rock, frankly, CNN only came out when there was a chance that veterans and police were going to have some type of altercation. So I don't want to only focus on the media, but you got a sign there, remember Isaiah Anthony. And I think what's positive here, and I've heard this from other Black Lives Matter leaders in New York, they have really called out white people. They've said white people need to be part of this movement. Silence is complicity, and you continue. I see white people in the community here at every single protest. Some of them I see literally every night. And by the way, most of these people, contrary to the police narrative and the media narrative, have full-time jobs. Cori Bush, who I was interviewing over there, she's running for Congress. She's a full-time nurse. Nurses, I had an ex. Nurses do like 12, 13-hour shifts, and she's coming out here to protest for several hours. And she's not like sitting in the background. She's up front. So these people work, and all they're really asking is to not be killed because of their skin color. All they're really asking is to not be killed and not be assumed to be a threat because of their skin color. And I don't think that's a lot to ask. I really don't. So we see two legal observers there. I guess they're trying to confirm, names of people that were arrested, where they're at, kind of exchanging notes about what they saw, which police officers they saw did wrong. By the way, just so you're planning your weekend, Ty and I are here probably leave Monday unless circumstances change. So definitely stick with us because we need to keep as many eyeballs on this as possible. It's a good audience right now. Definitely share if you haven't yet. We got other videos up on the channel, youtube.com/TYTpolitics. If you didn't see the video, a couple changes to the family recently. So it's going to be myself, Emma, Nomiki, as the main reporters on TYT Politics. Michael Tracy, Naomi LaChance moved over to our new channel, TYT Investigates, and we are going to be covering a lot of protests around America, not just Black Lives Matter, but environmental protests, protests against corrupt public officials. I think progressivism and protests kind of go hand in hand. So we're going to be covering this, and where we can't be there because we're only human, we're going to try to hire some freelance journalists. We had a freelancer here last weekend when Ty and I had to go back to Flint. We had a freelancer live because we don't want you to miss what's going on here. But you also have to take it upon yourself. In every single video so far, the St. Louis videos that we put on the channel, you got the number to Internal Affairs. You got the number to the St. Louis Police Department. You have the mayor's number. Again, I always tell you, politicians will only do the right thing if they feel like their jobs are on the line, if they feel their money is on the line, and if they feel their money is on the line. Remember, I said money twice. It's all about the money. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Remember that. So we'll stay live for a minute or two to see if anything else happens. Let's see if we got any comments I could read here. We got. All right, hold on. We got Jen says to Max, I guess Max is one of our friendly trolls, go read a history book. You have no idea what white privilege is. Do some research. Annoying does not deserve a death sentence, Riona says. Fred says white money kills. And I also think it's important. Listen, I fully say I got white privilege. I think any white person that doesn't think they have some type of privilege is lying to themselves. I personally did not grow up fearing the police. I didn't really fear much. I was a little isolated, didn't have a lot of friends. You could read it in my biography one day. But other than that, I grew up pretty middle class and privileged. I learned real quick how good I had it, and have it still, being out in America. So even the people that think like, oh, go get jobs, or oh, stop, you're blocking the highway, this and that. If you truly look at the sequence of events and you think black people are treated the same way as white people, you're delusional. And by the way, it is not legal to kill black or white people because you find drugs on them. That's not a death sentence in America. That shouldn't be a death sentence anywhere. So when you hear police and you hear trolls say, oh, he was a druggie, he deserved to die. No. Having drugs on you, by the way, do they say that about white people in New Hampshire? There's an epidemic of heroin in New Hampshire. I hear a lot more sympathy to those white people in New Hampshire than I hear African Americans doing crack or something like that. So why is it that if you're white and have problems with heroin, we need to put money into it, we need to rehabilitate, we point out that they don't have jobs and that leads to drug abuse, but a black guy they found heroin on, oh, he was a druggie. If you don't see that you thinking that way is racist, then you need to look in the mirror, because that is racist, for sure. So I think the guy eating the Cheetos agrees with me.
Ferguson has, there was a college kid, son of the owner of a Ferguson business, white family.
I know where this is going.
Respected in the community. He was over in North St. Louis, middle of the night, doing a drug deal in an alley.
White kid.
And the people he was doing the drug deal with killed him. City of Ferguson has an annual memorial dinner in his honor to pay for a scholarship fund, and the city is actually a sponsor of that dinner. So the disparity in treatment is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. What I've been telling the audience is it goes hand in hand with the history of the state. I mean, it was basically a Confederate state, technically part of the Union.
Still is a Confederate state.
Had you been at it, many of the protests?
I live 3 blocks from here.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. So there you have it. If you're a white guy dealing drugs, you get a nice memorial dinner. If you're a black guy dealing drugs, you're a hoodlum and you deserve to die. I think that says it all. We're gonna wrap up. If something changes, we'll go back up live. But as of right now, I don't want to jinx it, but I do think as of right now, it looks like things are at a standstill. We'll try to find out information on the people arrested, and we'll be back live tomorrow on the Facebook, on the YouTube. Share the videos. Check it out on youtube.com/TYTpolitics. We are not out here for our health. We want you to watch it. We want you to become active, whether it's on the ground, whether it's calling your local congressman, your local senator, the mayor of St. Louis. Make your voice heard, whether you want to be here or not. I can only give you the information. Ty can only show you the picture. The rest is up to you. Peace.